welcome to the CMN Church Planning Podcast. My name is Aaron Burke. I'm your host, where every month we bring new content that adds value to church planners, church leaders, church multipliers. I hope you have enjoyed the content so far. If you're new to CMN, CMN stands for the Church Multiplication Network. We are the church planning arm of the Assemblies of God. And I'm excited because today's episode, we're going to be talking about ministry outside of the four walls of the church planning, creative ways to get outside of there. And I'm with Heather Zempel.
Yes.
And Heather has been on the staff here at National Community Church in Washington, D.C., for 23 plus years.
Yes, I'm starting to lose track.
That is remarkable. First of all, the longevity of that. You've served in multiple different roles. If you don't know National Community was founded by Mark Batterson. They have incredible stories of God's faithfulness. How did you get involved here?
Yeah, great question. So my background is in biological engineering. So, traditional path to ministry, right? I came to DC to work on Capitol Hill, working for a senator that was on the Environment Public Works Committee. Started coming to NCC when we were one church, one location in the movie theater at Union Station, and thought, you know what? That's an easy place to visit because it's on the metro and it's in a movie theater. So if I get there and it's weird, I don't have to stay. I can just turn around and leave. But I was stuck. I was planning on only being here for a year. Fell in love with the church, fell in love with the city, and long story short, got stuck here, and I'm so grateful for it.
Okay, talk to me about how you got into ministry.
Yeah.
What happened? What was the journey?
Yeah. Well, to back way up on that, when I was 5 years old, when I was a kid, I played church. Like normal kids play school or house, and my sister and I played church. And so we would line up our stuffed animals, and my sister would lead worship and I would preach. And I just wish I could know, what did I preach on those early days? But I just, I always, when I talk to young leaders, I encourage them, like, look for those fingerprint moments or those window moments, especially when you're young, because sometimes God's giving a glimpse at what he wants to do in you and through you in those times. But more immediately, so I come to DC, I'm working on Capitol Hill, I've got this engineering background, and Pastor Mark had asked me if I would come on staff part-time for 9 months to help shepherd our small group ministry. We had about 7 small groups at that time. His promise to me that was 9 months later, we were going to hire someone full-time. And so I agreed to the 9-month thing. And long story short, I'm still here 23 years later. I got to a point where I was praying through, God, what do you want me to do? Because now I'm working like kind of 2 full-time jobs, one on the hill, one in the church. And I kept waiting for like a road to Damascus moment. Mm-hmm. I was waiting for that writing on the wall moment. But it came down to like where I was feeling most fulfilled, seeing the most fruit, and honestly having the most fun.
Love that.
And so I jumped right into it. I said, God, I'm taking a leap of faith here. I don't have a background in this. I did this. I played this as a kid, but I didn't see this as being a part of my journey, but I'm going to go for it.
I love that. I love those things. Say those 3 F's again.
Yeah, it was, and I come from a Southern Baptist background, so alliteration is part,
that's like part of the thing.
So that's how God speaks to me. But I was looking at where I was seeing the most fruit, and I felt fruitful in Capitol Hill. Right. I felt like that was a very fruit-filled thing I was getting to do, but I was seeing the most fruit when I was discipling people, when I was leading small groups, where I was feeling the most fulfilled. Like where is my purpose really feeling like it's meeting like my passion, my joy, where I feel most alive in God? It was with what I was doing. And then where I was having fun. I think sometimes we don't understand the holiness of fun. So we walk around with a theology of fun around here.
I love that so much. Okay, you have had the same job, the same title for 23 years.
Yes.
Not at all.
No. For about 20 years,
okay,
I was discipleship pastor.
Okay.
here.
So that's a long
So
time.
that was a long run.
All right.
Right.
Then what has happened then?
So a couple of years ago, we started talking about we want to do more things that don't have our name on it. We want to do more things that we don't control, we don't get credit for. Where is God moving in the kingdom, and how can we be a part of that? So we launched something called the Dream Collective. So now I guess my title is Executive Director of the Dream Collective, and we're still trying to define what all of that means. I don't know what that title means, and we're in the process of developing what the Dream Collective is.
Talk to me about, so 3 years ago, where does this vision even come from of being involved in things? What's the purpose of that?
Yeah, well, I feel like for a long time, there are churches, well, there are hospitals and there are teaching hospitals.
Right.
And we, for a long time, felt like there are churches and there are teaching churches. And we have felt called to be a teaching church, that the Lord has blessed us with spaces we need to steward, with stories we need to steward, with relationships we need to steward, and how can we leverage that for kingdom purpose. So we started thinking, how do we just be a part of not just building a church, but blessing a city, and not just building this church or blessing this city, but being a part of that throughout the world, really. And so Dream Collective said, how do we be a part of God's, bringing revival, reformation, and renaissance? And so we're focused on church planning. We're focused on business's mission, other missional ventures, even commissioning artists to tell the story of God in new and creative ways.
All right, so let's talk about the rollout of that. What does that look like? What's the impact y'all have had?
Yeah.
Give us an idea.
Yeah. So we found that we were already doing a little of this. For years, we've been involved in church planting, but often that meant like we just give some money and we wave goodbye and say good luck, right? And we thought we want to walk with people on a longer path. We realized that we've helped other places start business's mission, but again, it's been like here's our playbook, good luck with that. And we said we want there to be more relationships. So we do 3 primary things within Dream Collective. We host gatherings that inspire. So every year we host a revival in January. If you want to set the tone, set the table, set the pace for what the Holy Spirit wants to do in and through your community, we want to be a part of coming together for that. So that's a revival. And then we do a gathering in September called Renew, which really explores the intersection of gospel and culture. So that's a place where there's this confluence, convergence of church planners, business leaders, entrepreneurs, artists saying, what does it look like to live as a creative minority on the redemptive edge? So we host gatherings that inspire. We form cohorts that help equip. So Pastor Mark just got finished with a 12-month cohort of lead pastors, many of whom are on kind of the cusp of something new, a new building project, a new kind of cultural good that they're in the process of creating. And then we also just launched one just a couple months ago for church planners. Wow. So those are cohorts. And then finally, we deploy resources that help implement. So sometimes that's in the way of financial funding. Sometimes that's in the way of resources that, again, just we can hand our playbook and say, take it and you make it better.
What has church planning looked like for National Community?
Yeah, it's taken a lot of different forms. I would say what we've done best is our church planner and residence program. Okay. That's where someone can come and be a part of they immerse themselves in our world for a year. They're a part of our staff. They often are assigned with a campus pastor, so they learn all the ins and outs of what ministry looks like. It's the boots on the ground in the trenches kind of learning. And then we will send them out and help plant that church. So just most recently, we had some church planners that were with us for a year. They're now in Sacramento. They planted a couple years ago. They're about to become a self-sustaining church. And we're just super proud of them. We're super proud to be shareholders in that church plant.
I love that. Yeah. You guys have done business as mission, and I want to focus on this for a few minutes because I feel like so much of this is the future of the church.
Yeah.
When it comes to figuring out how the church, it's not just supplementing the church's finances, but it's also a mission of the church.
Absolutely.
So talk us through y'all's history with this. What is business as mission?
Yeah. And I think that's a key distinction, that we don't do business as mission just to help the bottom line.
Right.
It's about, it is about, there's got to be a missional bottom line to what we do. So for us, it started, way back when Pastor Mark is walking down 2nd and F Street Northeast, and he passes by this old boarded up, what had become a crack house, and thought to himself, that would make a great coffee house. So I think the first step in business's mission for churches, at least, it's two things. One, you have to live with prophetic imagination to see things not just as they are, but as they could be. And then the second thing is you've got to realize I'm not just here to build a church. I'm here to bless the city. So we buy this piece of property. It's our first piece of property. We're still meeting in rented facilities in 2 different movie theaters. We finally buy a piece of property, but instead of building a church building, we're building a coffee house where the church and community can cross paths. So we had already been living with this mindset that the church belongs in the middle of the marketplace. And for us at that time, it was just, well, we're going to meet in rented facilities. But there was a shift in that moment to where, no, we're not just passive participants in the marketplace. We're going to build the marketplace. We're going to build places that bless the city, church community can cross paths. And that kind of set us on a course of doing that. And so we've just been privileged to be a part of some of those businesses we own and operate. Some have just been birthed from within the womb of this church. And we're so excited to be a part of that.
Okay, so the Capital Turnaround, the building that we have now, which is unbelievable. Someone comes to the DC area, you got to check it out. But a lot of even the vision of the building is a lot of that.
Absolutely.
So kind of explain, even in the design and the build, and so much about what I've seen is we did this because how it can partner with the community. But like, kind of give us the vision behind a little bit of that.
That's another piece that I think is really important. Is we've always tried to honor the history and the legacy of the places that we've inhabited.
Wow.
And the neighborhood appreciates that. Like when we go into Ebenezer's Coffee House and we celebrate that at one time that was a place that was a food service for the people that were on the train at Union Station by putting, railroad tracks in the floor, things like that. Celebrate the history of where you are. Like realize that you're part of a longer history and honor the history and the legacy coming behind you. So anyway, we're in the Capital Turnaround. This was a place that, decades ago went before planes, trains, automobiles, when there were streetcars that were the primary transportation in the city. This is where they would come and be worked on and turned around. So this was like the end point and the beginning point for the streetcars. So it's a series of miracles that led us to be in this place. Like we were just sharing in team meeting today, we should not be in this place. We shouldn't inhabit this space. We should be trespassing right now. But the Lord has blessed us with this space to steward. And so there's kind of 3 phases. We have a performance space where we meet on Sunday mornings for our worship services, Thursday nights for House of Prayer, the rest of the week. There are concerts. There are these weeks right now, strings of graduation ceremonies. And so
Can't anybody rent it out?
Anybody can rent it out. We have 8th Day Productions, which is a drop-down LLC of NCC. So they manage the space, they manage the rentals, and anybody that comes into this space is going to get pastored.
How have y'all dealt with that, with people renting it out that might not share the same values or doctrine?
Sure.
What have y'all done to manage that?
Well, and I'll say we've had to learn some lessons. We've had to, there's been an evolution of that. I think the drop down of 8th Day Productions helps. They're able to be the entity that rents, the entity that is the front lines and the face for those rentals. And I won't say it's not without difficulty. Every now and then, there'll be a post online and somebody that invested a lot of money in what we're doing are like, I don't know that we should be renting our space for that. And so there is an evolution, I think, in our thinking even now, along with not just wanting to be in marketplace environments, but create marketplace environments, we don't just want to host culture. We want to be more engaged in creating culture. And so how can we utilize our space more and more for artists and creatives and filmmakers and playwrights and poets and artists that are creating kingdom goods, the good, the true, the beautiful that we can host in our space?
What are some other business missions things that y'all done that can maybe give some church planters, church leaders, church multipliers some ideas of, this is a cool outside of the box way?
Yeah. So another thing we have is Miracle Theater. It was an old Art Deco era movie theater that we had services in there for a while. We're no longer meeting there, but we're incubating another church in that
Right.
space right now. And on the weekends, we run it as a second run movie theater. We also have concerts there. We have community
Wow.
events. And so movie theater, coffee shop. We have a whole section of this building that is we're calling Realm of Possibility right now. What do we do there? Do we do a restaurant? Do we do another Ebenezer's Coffee House? Do we do? I mean, the possibilities are endless. Do we do incubation space for other pop-up businesses to incubate businesses? Do we? Is it an art gallery space? Is it a black box theater? Is it pickleball courts? I mean, we're dreaming of all kinds of things in that space. But I would just say, like, what is your community's greatest needs? What is your community's greatest passions, and how can you step into that space and be a blessing there?
How do y'all make that decision? Someone comes to the church and says, oh man, I see y'all have this space. I want to start a business to do this. How are you vetting that? I'm thinking of the pastoral, leading them to expectations, and we don't do everything.
Right.
How have y'all navigated?
Yeah, well, after Pastor Mark wrote this little book, In a Pit with a Lion on Stone Hill, and that set everybody out to chasing crazy dreams,
Right.
Which then led Pastor Mark to make sure that people understood you've got to make sure you've gotten a word from the Lord, and it's in the will of God and the way of God. But yeah, we have people that what I think the Dream Collective launch has helped with that. So we're trying to provide, again, gatherings and networks and resources to help people. Like, I've got a dream from God. So what do I do with that? So this summer, we're working on a resource. We're working on a resource called Mindsets of a Dreamer. It's just like, if you want to run after a God-given dream, what are the mindsets that you need to have, the postures, the practices in your life to make sure that you're leading yourself well before you're even going after that God-given dream? We're going to do a space in, I believe, November for potential entrepreneurs. How do you create a pitch deck? How do you find funding for this? How do you go after these things? I do think a key learning for us was how much of the business's mission side do we own and operate? Do we take responsibility for? Versus we tell people, get a vision from God and run with it. We'll come alongside you. We'll support you. We'll help equip you. We'll help give you a tribe. But I do think that a discerning point for us even now is, in what spaces do we own and operate? Do we manage? Do we have to make the decisions for? We're held accountable to the bottom line for, versus we just create an environment where people dream bigger, believe they can go for it, and then feel like they're equipped to do it.
All right, last couple minutes that we have with you. Just you stuck around for 23 years.
Yeah.
Plus, you obviously you would have had a backup option. You have a degree. You're a very smart person. What's kept you around? I'm just thinking of pastors and leaders that are looking at this, going, "Man, I'd love to have her on my team." What is it that's kept you around, Pastor Mark? The whole vision here.
That's a great question. I mean, Pastor Mark is a huge piece of that. Who you do ministry with is just as important, if not more important, than what you're doing and where you're doing it. And so build a team, build a culture. I said where I'm having the most fun. That fun has continued for 23 years. And that's not that we haven't had problems and difficulties, or that we all agree all the time. But there is this place where we really do love what we're doing and love who we're doing it with. I do love the city. I would say find people that just love where they are, love the city they're in, they love the calling. And then I just love being in a church that is, we're always going after something new. There's always a vision that's a little bit beyond our resources and our ability. And that's what keeps me around.
It's so exciting. All right. For those that are listening that want to know more about the Dream Collective, how to be involved, what do they get information?
Yeah, dreamcollective.com, or follow us on Instagram at We Are Dream Collective.
Okay. And we're so excited about what God's doing in national community. Thank you for your time. This has been riveting. Like, I'm encouraged and challenged. I was thinking about, going through a lot of Europe. It's interesting. It was like the church was the center of the community. Yeah. It's like the whole community was built around the church. And then something happened in America years ago where it was just like, let's take the church out of the community and put them in the suburbs somewhere. It's like, and y'all have fought against
Yes,
that.
yes.
Like, let's be in the middle of it. Let's be the life. If they're going to gather, we might as well have them gather here.
Yes, yes.
And I love what God's doing. If you're in the DC area, you need to check out what God's doing in Nashville community. Check out and connect with Heather. And just honored to have you on the CMN Church Planning Podcast. This is something that hopefully adds value to you every month. Cool conversations like this. And maybe there is a dream. Maybe there is a business. Maybe there's a way that you can be part of the community to really influence culture instead of just letting culture impact us. And I hope it's inspired you. We will see you next month on the CMN Church Planning Podcast.